Welcome back, sleuths, suspects, and witnesses. We are, as golfers would say, on the back nine of our February virtual book festival. Today is day 16, and we're going to have a really awesome time. I'm so glad that you could all be with us. And those of you watching on replay, if you haven't seen any of this madness yet, you are in for a treat. Just to remind you all, we have recovered the sardonic manuscript, but we are still on a schedule. I'm going to try and keep to as close to this hour timeline as I possibly can. It's important to me to be respectful of your time, so I'll keep things moving as best that I am able. Tonight, we have two astounding authors reading, and they're both reading brand new books that have just been recently published. So I'm super, super excited about this. We're going to have a good time. Katie Spina is here today, and she will be reading from her book, Swim the Stars. That's the full title, right, Katie? Yay! And
Yes,
Alice, we call her Linda Kirkpatrick, is also here, and she is going to be reading from her children's book, Riding Frogs in the Backyard. So two really fun children's books today. We're going to have a good time telling the story. Just a reminder for everybody in the room, if you haven't already, mute your microphone so that we don't get too much background noise while the authors are reading. So first, Katie Spina has joined us. She is going to read from her book called Swim the Stars. Hold it up real close so we can see it. Yay! And I love this cover. It's so bright and brilliant and beautiful. A really great artist did this. Gee, Katie, who was your artist?
Sophia Moten, and they are local to the Sterling Heights area.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So you have about 8 minutes. When you are ready, Miss Katie, please take the microphone and read aloud.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Blaster bolts exploded outside the hull, rocking the ship hard. Ryan bit back the frozen berry blasticles that were trying to force their way past her gums and out into her helmet. Her breath was coming in short bursts. Her stomach muscles cramped. The back and forth of the ship wouldn't have been so bad, except her body was trying to float out of its seat as it was rattled against the harness. She forced a deep breath of stale air and closed her eyes. Over the comm in her helmet, Professor Perea told everyone to stay calm. The pilot had things under control. Ryan's head was pounding behind her right ear. The lack of gravity wasn't just bad for her stomach. Everyone was distracted by the ship being under attack, so she slipped a pain patch out of her pants pocket. She fumbled with the backing. The silver sheet came apart from the patch and drifted up towards Ryan's face. She snatched it out of the air and shoved it in her pocket. Scanning the cabin, she confirmed nobody was looking her way. She tucked her hand under the bottom of her tunic and pressed the pain patch up near her armpit. It would have been more effective on her neck or shoulder, but then someone would have seen it. It wasn't technically against the rules for a cadet to have pain patches, but it would have started questions Ryan didn't want to answer, because revealing those secrets would ruin her life. Another blaster bolt sent the shuttle rocking hard on its side. Sanaiba clung to the ceiling, riding out the shocks. Ryan hung against the harness that strapped her to the seat. She tried talking to Professor Perea on the comm. His channel was blocked. She tapped his arm. He brushed her away, unbuckling his harness to grab at Sanaiba. He pushed off the ceiling and dove for the seat next to Ryan. The two cadets did their best to get her buckled in. The shuttle rocked and jerked to a stop. Over the loudspeaker bolted to the ceiling, a voice said, "Academy shuttle, prepare to be boarded." Professor Perea braced himself against the floor and ceiling. He grabbed a harness strapped to the wall and buckled himself in. Clicking his heels together activated magnets in his boots. Feet secure, he grabbed a bag from under his seat. He pulled out a black and gray blaster pistol that was older than Ryan, then secured the bag under the seat. Over the helmet comm, Professor Perea said, "No matter what happens, stay in your seats." Ryan was trying to hear him through the blood pounding in her ears. Her stomach dropped into her boots, leapt into her mouth, and then fell back behind her solar plexus. The shuttle slowly moved backward. There was no way that voice could be here now. It was impossible. It had to be impossible. The shuttle stopped moving. Ryan curled into herself, pressing her back as far into the seat as she could. Zanaiba sat tense with her hands pressed against her knees. Ryan couldn't catch her breath. The worry about puking into her helmet was like a distant memory now. Everything she had run from, all her hard-won victories, were about to be stolen away. Professor Perea checked his wristlet. His voice crackled again in Ryan's helmet. 4 minutes until we rendezvous. Stay calm. 4 minutes. They could hold out that long. Ryan had held out for much longer. This was Ryan's first time being boarded. She read about the hijacking protocols in the UG textbook on interstellar travel. She laughed especially hard at the instruction to hide all valuables in your underpants, as no ne'er-do-well will go there. Her mother's best friend, Carbaran, was notorious for making people strip down. If you really wanted to keep your valuables, you hid them in with the food. No respectable pirate trusted stolen food, not after hearing the legend of Bloody Boris. The shuttle door shook, and the pounding reverberated around the cabin. The other cadets jumped and twitched against their harnesses. Professor Perea said over the comm, "Stay in your seats. I've got this." He gripped the blaster pistol tight against his leg. Ryan's conditioning took over. Grandsmith, Ryan's grandmother, made her practice every morning. Deep breaths. Feel the calm settle into your bones. Be aware of where you are. What are your weaknesses? Right now, a huge lack of gravity was a big deal. She'd work with what she had. Sanaibet had been bouncing around the cabin for over an hour. Ryan had watched her find all the best handholds. It wasn't a perfect battle assessment, but it was something. She checked all her hidden blades. In her right and left sleeves, inside right pocket, outside left ankle tucked in a pocket she sewed into her boot lining, inside right ankle in the custom holster Uncle Thesp made for the dagger. They were all there along with the honor blade on her chest. A final bang and the shuttle door blew inward. Professor Perea's slim figure swayed against the change in air pressure. He raised the blaster pistol toward the door, holding it with both hands. Though he was her favorite teacher for the cool ways he looked at the universe and taught how it worked, Ryan never thought Professor P was big on the hero stuff. The waiting was the worst part. On the plus side, while they waited, the shuttle acclimated to the boarding ship's gravity. Ryan slowly pressed down into her seat. Her feet dropped to the floor. Vogue sat across from her, doubled over with his head between his knees. The Cyclops boy twitched and patted his pockets. The cadet from Kondo sat frozen like Sanaiba. Through the blackness of the doorway stepped a figure Ryan was more than familiar with. Big leather boots clomped across the thin metal panels of the shuttle floor. The bright silver flight suit glinted as the emergency flashers danced across the reflective fabric. Across the chest was a bandolier exactly like Ryan's, made by the same hands years before Ryan was even born. The handle sticking out of the sheath was different than the one Ryan remembered. Instead of a bright brass handle encrusted with precious stones polished to a high sheen, this blade was black. A mourner's blade wrapped in strands of leather that matched the boots. The hijacker stretched an arm out toward the open shuttle door. She pressed a button on the remote in her hand. Fresh air rushed into the cabin, flowing over Ryan's skin. The intruder stepped in front of Professor Perea. Keeping the blaster up, he snatched his helmet off with one hand. It snagged on his nose as he pulled it over his head. Ryan winced. His copper hair flopped onto his pale white forehead as he stared down the intruder. "Who are you, and what is the meaning of this?" Professor Perea unlatched the harness and shrugged it off. His boot made a hard clang as he stepped toward the intruder. She ignored him and stepped closer to Ryan. "This is a UG shuttle you have boarded, and I demand an explanation." The blaster pistol in his hand hummed to full power. The intruder spun in a smooth action, one hand snatching the weapon from his grip, the other unsheathing the blade at her chest. The knife pressed against Professor Perea's throat just under his chin. He stretched his neck, trying to keep the blade from breaking the skin. Ryan took off her helmet. "That's enough. Put it away." The helmet turned to face her again. Ryan glared at her own reflection, glaring right back at her. She unbuckled her harness and stood. Sanaiba reached out a hand to stop her, but Ryan shrugged it off. Of course this had to happen when Ryan was heading for the greatest opportunity of her life. Nothing could ever go smoothly. She always had to ruin things. The intruder sheathed the knife and removed her helmet. Shoulder-length brown hair spilled out. She was just as Ryan remembered her. Her skin was the same light tan as Ryan's. Her face was blotchy and the tip of her nose was red. The smell of old smoke wafted off of her. Her hair was stringy, shiny with oil from going long stretches without washing. Grief grabbed hold of Ryan's heart when she focused on the single, perfect braid hanging behind the woman's left ear. A braid that mirrored Ryan's, including the string of leather that wrapped around it. Ryan's hand gravitated to the braid tucked behind her left ear. Her mouth went dry, grief stealing all the moisture from her body. Ungrateful brat, the woman shrieked and slapped Ryan hard. Her cheek stung and her pride hurt more, but Ryan was done taking her mother's abuse. You dumped me on that planet. After everything I gave you, you would betray me like this? Your own mother? Her voice grew louder as the rage behind the words got more intense. Ryan glared at her mother with a fury that could burn holes into comets. Ryan's secret was out. The first one, at least.
Well done. Yay! Thank you very much. That's super fun. It's already on my TBR list, so I appreciate it. Katie, show us your book cover one more time. This is called Swim the Stars. Really fun book. Super, super fun. Okay, we're going to be moving on now to Linda Kirkpatrick. She has a children's book. Welcome, Linda. Her book is called Riding Frogs in the Backyard. So the tricky part about the background, Linda, is you have to hold it up right in front of your face so that we can all see it, and then closer to the computer and it disappears. See, digital backgrounds are so cool. There it is. Yay! Okay, so Riding Frogs in the Backyard. Linda, when you are ready, please turn on your microphone because you're currently muted. Take the microphone and read aloud.
All right, Riding Frogs in the Backyard. Dedication. This book is dedicated to my beautiful granddaughters, Holly and Robin. A bedtime, fun time, story time for you. Holly and Robin are catching little frogs. The girls giggle with glee whilst using Daddy's fishing nets to catch lots of bugs for the frogs' dinner time. Feeding all the bugs to their hungry little froggy friends who have happy, smiling faces. There, I'll show you one of the frogs. The frogs are leaping high and chasing all the yummy bugs. Nighty night, sleep tight, little frogs. Make sure you rest well tonight. Thank you, froggies, for today and all our fun play. Holly and Robin, it's time for you to sleep too. Let's see if we can get the end of it here.
Yeah,
There's
those
the
are
back.
difficult to see with your background. So just keep reading.
That's it. That's my book.
That was very short. Wow,
Short.
that was fantastic. Riding
Let's see.
Frogs in the Backyard. See, I was looking for more frogs. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well done. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So
I should have said that it was illustrated by Hannah Falanga. She's an amazing, amazing artist. And she made these especially for my granddaughters. She's my daughter's friend. And she said,
That's
I'm
awesome.
never going to do that kind of artwork again. Please don't ask me. So I did, but they're beautiful, beautiful pictures.
I'm looking forward to seeing the book. And it's brand new, right? It just came out.
Yeah, it has copyright of 2022, but it's still pretty new.
Yeah, it's very new. Thank you very, very much. So now we are going to move on to the interrogation section of our evening. Let me go ahead and share my screen one more time. So thanks again, Katie Spina and Linda Kirkpatrick. We appreciate you coming tonight and reading. And you guys can find all the links on our Facebook page if you'd like to follow them. The case of the assassinated author. Andrew Allen Smith stole the sardonic manuscript. Then he was assassinated. Who is the culprit? Why did they do the deed? The suspects: Chloe Holliday, Melinda Falgo, Ruby Fink, Christopher Gare, Amy Kelso, Jules Nelson, Marianne Whelan and Deborah Reed, each of them have been in the library since the mystery began and the book was first discovered missing. They were all in the library when Andrew fell to his death, apparently poisoned by something from the cafe. Just to remind you, we all had something from the cafe. Christopher Gare is our undercover detective. And for those of you who are uncertain of his credentials, as you can see by this picture, Christopher has been doing police work for a very long time. Christopher, welcome to the room, and thank you for helping us solve this mystery. I know you have been undercover since this whole mess began. I give you the floor first, sir. How would you like to start the evening?
Well, I have been sending messages back and forth with headquarters. I've been trying to do a little deep diving into some of the suspects' lives, and I figure I can share some of the details that I've come across so far. I know I pick on poor Deborah a lot, and I don't wish to pick on Deborah, but we have uncovered a few things about her that are a little troubling that I figured I'd bring out to everyone, make your own assumptions. But I don't know if you knew that Deborah had a record. She was once known as the Swedish fish swiper, where she was caught stealing. Of course, she was the age of 5, but as Bruce Willis might say, old habits die hard. She also did a little expose, I read one of her columns, on a neat little thing called coumarin, which is used in making rat poison, which is interesting because it's also used in making fake cinnamon, which I believe was one of the ingredients in Andrew's drink.
The fake kind or the real kind, we can't determine for sure.
I know, but
Okay.
she might be able to. Just putting that out there. Then interesting too, Marianne came across a few details about Marianne, or as they call her in the culinary world, the butcher barista or chef snuff. And we've only found that out when we realized there was a cease and desist order from Gordon Ramsay against her.
Nice.
So you think you know people.
You think you know people.
Now, Melinda, where's Melinda? There's Melinda. Now, ironically, Melinda, I wasn't able to find much out about you, at least your early life. I am rather curious why that might be.
Well, I'm actually very curious about it too, which is the whole reason I showed up at the library in the first place. As you may remember, I was an orphan. I was in fact adopted, but I found out through the advice of my good friend and psychic, Ruby Fink, that there was a reason for me to check out the sardonic manuscript. And Miss Kelso's library turns out to be the only location for that item. That's what drew me here. So I too could find out more about my original family.
Where was your original family from?
Apparently, Sardonia.
Dun, dun, dun. I love doing the music. I will bring to your attention, Officer Gare, Ruby Fink, our psychic, is mysteriously missing from tonight's lineup. As she
I'm sure he'll just brush
seems-
that off and blame me again.
Well, she always
Just
seems
snuffed
to be
another
missing
one?
on Thursdays. And I might also bring to your attention that since Andrew Smith was found poisoned on the floor, he may or may not be visiting us by specter. I heard he had obtained in his non-corporeal, is that how you say that? Self.
Corporeal.
There you go. I hear he obtained a visitor's pass to hell, and he is there now giving somebody a hard time. Do we have any other questions from anyone else in the room? Feel free to turn your microphones on And let's get this underway. Katie Spina.
So I actually have a question for Christopher because this occurred to me. So Andrew was a pretty smart guy. And no, he was. I know the face.
Ed, how smart can he be?
Hold on. I think, but that's where I'm at. I think he was a pretty smart guy. I think he knew somebody was on to him. Is there any possibility that he accidentally poisoned himself trying to poison someone else to throw
Here's the
to
thing.
get them
You
away?
just said he was smart. We questioned that. Then you just said maybe he poisoned himself.
You're not so smart.
Look, accidents happen. Accidents happen to smart people too.
Was
Mark
it his
Love.
best thought?
Mark Love, go ahead.
I have a couple of questions, and I would like to
One,
start
one
with
at a
our-
time. One at a
all right,
time.
we'll start with one, with our detective Christopher. I'm curious as to if you've been able to identify the poison that was used to bump off Mr. Smith.
We are still having that analyzed. We're fairly certain, I won't say her name, but we're fairly certain we know who used you know what to do you know what.
Well, my curiosity is because there are a couple of poisons, because this had to be very fast acting from the
It
time
was.
he took a sip until the time he was dead. If
About
there's
4 seconds, I
4
believe.
seconds. So that brings to mind two possibilities, and both would have an odor if you were close enough to the body to determine this. I mean, if you smelled almonds, that's always an indication of cyanide. Or tobacco, because as a detective, I'm sure you know that all you have to do is take an unfiltered cigarette, put it in a little jar of water for about an hour, and then the residue, the nicotine, is extremely toxic. And you could put that, just a drop or two of that into his coffee along with his, was it ginger and cinnamon, which would mask the taste. And once he took a little sip, he's gone.
I
Why were
find
you
it
not looking at him?
I find it tremendously interesting that Mark Love knows so much about poison, you guys.
I
I'm
write
just-
mysteries, my friends. I write mysteries, do a lot of research.
That's a great cover, Mark. Good job.
Are you sure he's not a suspect?
Is now.
There's so much. Well,
He
yes,
is now.
there's so much we just don't know about this story. Emma Palova, you had a question.
Yes, this one is for Chris. Are you sure he was poisoned?
He's dead.
Well, I know he could have had a heart attack. He could have had
Yeah.
a heart attack the way he gets excited about everything. You know, he
I
dropped
can-
dead
I
from a heart
I
attack.
can I can absolutely vouch for Andrew's heart. It is stronger than your average bear heart, and I don't think he would have keeled over from
Not
that.
anymore.
So yeah, same thing. Not anymore.
Emma, I'm sure you're magic, but he did have a strong heart.
Okay.
Absolutely, he did. And I want to draw your attention because, Deborah, you've been picked on a lot, but the last question that was posed to Christopher was not tremendously direct. So, Deborah, I think we owe you a little bit of an apology because even our undercover detective can't formulate a straight answer.
What's the question?
What was the- Oh, Christopher.
Well, I will say this, back to Mark's question too, to me. Two things. One, if I'd smelled almonds, I'd have been hungry, did not get a case of the munchies. I'm severely allergic to cigarette smoke, didn't sneeze. So I'm still waiting for the coroner's report on everything.
Okay,
And
that's a good start.
yeah. So there was a question here from Mackenzie. Ms. Reed, did you know Mr. Gare before all of this started? Were you affiliated with Detective Gare in some way before the manuscript was stolen?
No, because just like with Mr. Smith, he would be dead by now if I had known him beforehand.
Wait a
That
minute, was
sounds
that
like a
just an
confession.
admission? It did. It just sounded like a confession, you guys.
No, because I had said before that if I had to work with Mr. Smith, that I would kill him within 5 minutes. It had obviously been much longer than 5 minutes.
Days and days.
Therefore, I did not do it.
Okay, therefore, ergo, like that's a thing. Okay. Anyone else have questions in the room? Mark Bello, go ahead.
I haven't been here as often as many of you, and I'm just wondering, listening to all of this, since Andrew stole the manuscript, is it possible that Andrew faked his death? And he's not really dead?
Mostly dead.
Is that kind of like being almost pregnant? I don't know. So here's my suggestion. I saw Christopher Gare's team come in and struggle under great duress to take the large framed Mr. Smith out of the library to the coroner's office. The man is over 6 feet.
But
What is he, 6'5"?
Mr. Gare is in cahoots with Mr. Smith, and they both used his fake death to take away the emphasis that was placed on the manuscript.
I like his idea.
Theory. That's a theory.
I'm just curious.
That's a theory.
You know, look at Gare. I mean, he's kind of a shifty looking guy, don't you think? With that beard?
Yeah.
The beard. It's the beard.
Mark and I are on the same page here. We got this.
And besides, everybody knows I'm in love with Deborah, so she can't possibly have done anything. Look at that face. I mean, she can't possibly have done anything wrong.
She's got
Right.
basic instinct written all over her.
Yeah. Deborah, family friendly show, remember? All right, Mark.
Why
Love,
is she
go ahead.
turning so red? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I wonder why.
I had a follow-up question if
Go
I
ahead, Mark. Go ahead.
Okay. This one was aimed at, where'd she go? There she is, Melinda. Okay. Traditional things with a homicide or a crime is means, motive, and opportunity. We know you had the opportunity because you were close in proximity when he kicked the bucket.
Mens
You
rea,
know-
as they say in the legal biz.
There you go. You had the means because you certainly have done enough research on this Sardani to know types of poisons or things that they may have used to get rid of their enemies. And your motive, you were both in pursuit of obtaining this manuscript, and he had it, you wanted it. So why did you kill him?
Well, as far as proximity, we were all in the room with proximity to Mr. Smith. So it really could have been anyone. I mean, that's just a convenient fact that you're pointing out. But as far as researching, I mean, all the research that I have done in my tenure as a researcher has never delved into poisons or anything like what Mr. Officer Gare said about, what was it? Not curcumin. It's a derivative from the tonka bean. I just know that. And it's illegal to, no, wait, not that I would know anything like that.
How would you know something like, my goodness. And the mystery
Anyway.
deepens. Yeah.
As far as motive, why would I do anything to try to embarrass my potentially new family that I am trying to get in touch with?
Like trying to steal a book from the library? That wouldn't be embarrassing your family?
Never stole, only borrowed.
That's
You
what
don't
we do in
borrow
libraries,
reference
right?
books from the library.
Jules, what do you have to offer about this? Do you know anything about this poisoning event that took place? I mean, you and Marianne were seen in the cafe together, talking in frustrated tones. Could you have had some kind of rift with Mr. Smith? I mean, I know I personally saw you standing in the stacks arguing about something.
I'm just so frustrated that our pristine reputation for our library has gone down the toilet. Now we are no longer the most popular library to do research at. And the only emails I'm getting are people who want to see the crime scene. They don't even want to come to our beautiful library anymore. So I'm just flabbergasted at this, but I would never have caused such a scene where it would ruin our reputation.
Mark asks a very interesting question. Mark Love, he asks, is there anyone in this room who didn't have a problem with Mr. Smith?
That's what I was gonna say.
Well, I have to argue, he says, didn't want Mr. Smith out of the way. I think we all wanted him out of the way, as in out of our library and
Right.
stop making noise and commotion. But there's a difference between wanting someone out of the way and out of existence.
The way, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, Chloe doesn't say much, so I feel like she's hiding. her
Yeah,
feelings.
Chloe, you
Yeah.
are being very quiet. Do you have anything to add here?
Well, I'm just, I read a lot, and I read mystery and suspense, and it seems to me that the people who obviously did it, like Deborah or Melinda, are probably not the people who did it, and the people who don't seem to be the ones who did it, like the detective, might be the ones to wonder about. That's what's on my mind.
So Jen Rinaldi asks an interesting question, Mr. Gare. Officer Gare, do we know if Mr. Smith was having any kind of a liaison with the women in our suspect pool? He was the only man, after all.
Until Mr. Gare
Is
came
there
in.
something untoward going on here that we have yet to discover?
Well, I think we'd be feeding into his fantasies if we go into that direction.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's-
if we're
it's
gonna
really
do if
very
we're gonna do a
sad.
twisted thing like that, we should have made it a reverse harem one. That's all I have to say.
It's really very sad that he's dead and he can't reply to that comment. That's gonna be fun. Mackenzie asks, Ms. Wieland, do you know if anyone made a generous donation to the cafe or a worker of the cafe? Has your cafe been financially assisted because of this mystery?
My cafe has not been financially assisted. I've been owning the cafe for 2 years now, and I have good workers, 2 other baristas besides myself. But I can say Mr. Smith was over there aggravating everybody. Plus, there were several other people in there close to the time that he was. Melinda, Ruby, Deborah wandered through. He was on everybody's nerves. So I can't speak for my 2 baristas. They did make the coffee up.
But as far as you know,
Mr.
you have not benefited financially from Mr. Smith.
No, I
Okay.
haven't, nor have my workers to my knowledge.
So Linda posits, we all know the butler did it. So who used to be a butler? Jules, you seem innocent in this. Did you used to be a butler in your former career?
No, I'm an English major. It's completely different.
Yeah, it is completely different.
Good question. Jules, how long had the book been at the library? How many years had it been there?
2 years.
And Mary Ann has only been in charge of the cafe for 2 years.
That's
That
quite the
is
coinkydink,
correct.
isn't it?
That's interesting.
Correct.
Mark McCross, since there were people near the proximity of each other, was Amy closest to the left or right of Andrew? Where exactly was she standing? Amy, do you have any recollection? I know it was a crazy time and we were all kind of scattered when Andrew fell to the floor. I mean, there was a thud. So
was a thought. I remember
do
you had
remember
asked
where
me
you
to
stood?
call over for the coffee. I remember that, and I placed the order, and then we were waiting and we were talking, and I really don't know.
I don't believe you moved away from the circulation desk because you were on the phone making that call to the cafe.
But I'm wondering why Mark McCraw would focus on me as opposed to everybody else as well. We should talk about.
That's an
everyone
interesting question,
was.
Mark.
Everyone's been talking about me way too much. It's your turn.
Well, that's because
Thought you
Amy.
liked attention, Miss Wanna get a Pulitzer Prize.
That's because Amy doesn't like all the things that are happening. So Andrew was a bother. So that's why I'm thinking that she wanted to take him out.
But would I do
Kinda
anything
dead.
to mess up my beautiful library with some dead body in the middle of it? Really?
That's the reason why you poisoned him and not, that's the reason you poisoned him and you didn't shoot him or give a knife, because then there would be blood.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was
Poison would have been the least
Yeah, you know,
nastiest way.
and we all know the Roomba doesn't clean up blood, right?
No, no.
Really? How do you
Right.
know that?
All
And
over the floor.
one last question before we end our interrogation session for the night. Does anyone else have another question?
Mackenzie asked one in the chat.
Okay, can you read it for me, please?
Did anyone hear Miss Kelso's call to the cafe, or were y'all distracted?
Mm.
Yes, she said, add poison to the coffee.
I did not.
That is an interesting idea. As I recall, Amy dialed the phone, and we all, if you go back and watch the replay, we all took turns making our order over the phone. So to say that one person was able to, well, but here's an interesting thought that just came into my head. Could something have been sent in code, Marianne? Could you have said something to your baristas that only they know and therefore knew that they were supposed to poison a particular cup?
Well, my baristas are from different countries, but they've been here for 2 years, the same as I have. I have not sent any special codes to them.
Okay.
But
Well-
Amy would have talked to one of them, probably Lumbo, the head barista, when she made the call. She would either have talked to Lumbo or the other barista, Boom Quisha. So I'm not
There
sure
you
who
go.
she talked to.
Christopher, I hope you're gonna run those people through the APHIS system and find out if we know who they are.
You know, I think it's far more likely that Marianne got on the phone and said, Andrew's making eyes at Emma, nix him.
Okay, on that note, we are done with our interrogations for this evening. Holy moly, you guys are so much fun. And so we come to the end of another interrogation session. Who didn't come back tomorrow to ask more questions, collect clues, and get ready to sling your accusations to win prizes at the end of the month. Remember, the festival doesn't end until the end of February. On the 27th, we're going to have the big reveal party on the 28th. If you go back and watch the replays, which are available for intense scrutiny on our website and Facebook page and YouTube channel, and you happen to hear one of the suspects say, I have nothing to say about that, you will know that either you're barking up the wrong tree or the suspect is just simply clueless. Don't forget, oops, I hate this. Don't forget, we are also running a scavenger hunt on the website all this month. Check it out. We're giving even more prizes away at the end of the month and the night of the big reveal for those of you who can complete the scavenger hunt form accurately and completely. Thank you, Riddle Master Jacob Bullen, who again saved my butt on this one. I could not have done this without him. So thank you very much, Jacob. Here are the fingerprint tallies for the evening. Deborah Reed is at 125. Amy Kelso, 120. Andrew Allen Smith, although he is dead, he can still collect fingerprints because ghosts can do remarkable things. Authors, here's the standings for you. Chloe, 84. Jennifer Rinaldi, 83. Christopher Gare, 76. Emma Pelova, 73. And we have a tie for 5th place, Ruby Fink and Jules Nelson. We have had 396 pairs of eyes on our wacky, crazy thing so far. The Witness Ledger. We had an awesome night on the 13th of 46 people coming to witness our interrogations. Let's see if we can get those numbers back up again, everybody. Invite your friends, invite your neighbors, invite your enemies, bring everybody in. You invite your enemies, and one of them may have turned out to be the one who killed Andrew Smith. You never know. Invite everybody. Let's get everyone into the room. Next up, we're going to do our spinny wheel of happiness, which everybody loves, including me, because it's just super fun. We're going to give away the 2 books that were read tonight, Katie Spina's Swim the Stars and Linda Kirkpatrick's Riding Frogs in the Backyard. If your name comes up on the spinny wheel of happiness as a winner, please send me an email to diana@pagespromotions.com. I sense a presence in the room, everyone, an eerie presence, a cold, cold shiver just ran up my spine. Andrew, please come forth from the shadows. I
It's a
beckon your
poltergeist.
spirit to speak to us, Andrew.
It's that Ruby thing. She keeps calling me with them darn cards of hers. Tell her to put them cards away.
Andrew, we all miss you in our interrogation session today. I hope that you enjoyed your visit to hell. Did you have an interesting vacation?
I got the air conditioner up and working. Everything's going good.
Awesome.
We're going to freeze that over.
All right. I'm so glad that you were able to come back into terra firma for just a few moments to join us. We are going to do the spinning wheel of happiness, but before we do, we're going to do the question of the night, which started out being a lightning round, but we get so many people in the room, it's not so lightning anymore. However, tonight, the question is, do you prefer to write in seclusion, public spaces, or a mixture of both? And tonight we're going to start with Mark McCraw.
I like to do both. Mixture.
Marianne Wheeland, how do you prefer to write?
Totally alone in the quiet.
Totally alone. Sounds sad. Christopher Gare, how do you like to write, sir?
Mike's not on.
Turn your microphone on.
Sorry to say, nude. No.
Keep the mic off. Keep the mic
That's a
off.
completely different question.
I will actually put headphones on, listen to music, so it does not matter to me whether it's private, alone, in public. I don't care. I just tune everybody out anyway.
Mark Love.
I will work on both, but I'm like Christopher. I've got to have music playing, and that helps to set the mood for the different scenes. So,
thank you for not saying nude.
Yeah. One of those horrific images a night is enough. Deborah Reed.
It's probably a mixture, but some of that's just because I had no choice but to get used to writing with other things going on because I had young kids and all that kind of stuff, and I just kind of got used to it. And a lot of times, if I'm thinking, it's helpful to people watch. I get ideas.
You get ideas about who to kill next.
Honestly, sometimes.
Yeah. That's what I thought. Mandy, Joe, how do you prefer to write?
Mixture. I've written in cafes. I've written in the waiting line at the school, sitting in my car. Variety of places. At home. So
awesome. Okay. Amy Kelso.
I prefer to write alone. In fact, I like writing when everyone else is asleep. So I'm just totally alone. So yes.
That's when she murders too.
I mean, no, yes, wait. I definitely don't murder when there's a bunch of people around. I know that much.
Nice cover. Chloe Holiday.
I prefer to not have a bunch of people around. So mostly it's when I'm home. But weirdly, I really like to read in airports too. I don't know what it is. Maybe it makes the time go faster, but airports are really good for writing.
Yeah, they are. I'm very disappointed that 9/11 took that away from us, because I used to go to the airport on the weekends, sit and watch people come and go and write. It was the best. I miss it. Donna Newman, how about you? How do you write?
I can write anywhere. Like if I have an idea in my head, I don't care where it is, I'll pull the notebook out of my purse and start working on it. But when I'm actually writing, like, then I have to be alone. After I have the thought and I have to actually sit down, I have to be alone.
Okay. Linda, what about you? You have to turn your microphone on so we can hear you.
She said in the chat, wherever I happen to be and the story bursts out of me.
Awesome. Deborah Harris, are you a writer? Do you find
No.
yourself okay? Do you find yourself coming up with wacky ideas in strange places? I mean, aside from, the writing profession, does that happen to you? Like when you're folding laundry? No? Okay. Mark Bello, how do you like to write?
I like to write alone in two places. I have a writing desk in Florida and a writing desk in Michigan, and depending on where I'm at, that's where I write, and only alone.
Okay.
As with other bodily functions, you you want to do certain things alone.
I'm not even going there. Okay.
Call that master literary.
Question is, where's your desk?
You know what concerns me? The man's a lawyer. Okay, Emma Palova, go on.
In seclusion and at airports and aboard planes.
Very good. Jules Nelson.
Since I really like to write between the time of like midnight and 3 a.m., it's typically alone, but I have learned how to write in coffee shops because no one calls me mom there and nobody needs treats there. So they really just leave me alone. So either of those two places are good.
Got it. Okay. Gary, what about you? Where do you like to write?
For the creative part, it really doesn't matter. It's to me, it is just very important to, when you have a good idea, is to get it down. It's almost like putting putty on there, and then afterwards working out more along.
Okay. Jennifer Rains, how do you prefer to write?
Usually alone, but I have written in a whole lot of places. Yeah, I don't have to write in one place. So on holidays, looking at nice nature. I like nature. I like to be able to see trees or sky or something when I write.
Very good. Jan Franklin.
I've never written with other people, but I'm going on a writing retreat in July, so I guess I'll find out. I've only written alone, so.
Wow. Yeah, I love writing community. I find that energy very invigorating. Jennifer Wilcock, what about you?
Totally alone and dead silent.
Wow. See, that would frighten me. Jennifer Rinaldi.
In my cave with my gold.
Okay. Melinda, how do you prefer to write?
6 of one, half a dozen of the other, although I have discovered that I'm more prolific when I'm writing out in a public setting as opposed to in the home office.
Okay. Preeti, what about you? How do you prefer to write?
Alone, mostly alone, but sometimes when I have the urge to write, I can write anywhere, like cooking, just make notes, like if you have an idea. Yeah.
I burned a turkey that way once. It was not pretty. Deb McPeak, what about you? Do you write? Do you dabble in this insanity?
I prefer to write in cursive.
There you go. Okay. Nice answer. Good job.
Thank you.
Jody Langley, are you a writer? Do you do this madness? You can put your answer in the chat if you like. Mackenzie, did you put your answer in the chat yet? Amy will find it for us.
Okay, she said alone or with the possible ghost of late night hours, but people are too judgy. So Andrew, I guess if you're a ghost, you can do, no, wait, I don't know. Other ghosts, I think. That might be creepy. I don't know.
And Andrew, you're the last one, sir. How do you prefer to write?
Over Marianne's shoulder. In the back of the room when Christopher's name, running up to Jules going, Mom, give me treats. I write wherever I can get lost in the thoughts and the moments. They're stuck inside me forever. So yeah, anywhere.
Awesome. Awesome. You guys are the best. So much fun. I love this time every night we get to kind of meet each other and learn a little bit about each other and about craft. Super fun for me. But now it is time to spin the spinny wheel of happiness. Tonight, our first spin is going to be for Katie Spina's book, Swim the Stars. And the second spin will be for Linda's book, Writing Frogs in the Backyard. So let me share my spinny wheel of happiness wheel, if I can get my computer to do what I want it to do. Here we go. And Andrew's ghost has reminded me to turn on the sound, which I've done. Okay, here we go. First spin for Katie's book. Congratulations. And now,
yay!
Now, that was really great. I love the enthusiasm. Okay, Linda Kirkpatrick's book is next. Writing Frogs in the Backyard. Here we go. Thank you very much, everybody, for playing our game. Amy is so on my case about this. When I don't do it, she gets mad at me, and we don't want Amy being mad at me.
I told her one time to do this, just to clarify.
Okay, the problem is, like my mother's voice, you never go away.
Good.
So, if you've won on the spinning wheel tonight, make sure that you send me an email to diana@pagespromotions.com. Send me your mailing address so that I can send it to the office so we can send out your books. Before we go, because we're real close to the end, is there anybody who has anything else to say tonight? Amy, go.
I just want to read, Jody responded to your message, said, I'm an avid reader, but not a writer. So I asked if she prefers to read alone or with others around. I said, anytime, anywhere, as much as possible.
Awesome. I like that. I like that. When I was standing in line at the Lansing Center last Saturday, I was actually reading a book, waiting in this line of like 160 people, and I got some really interesting looks.
Sad.
Because evidently walking while reading is not something that normal people do.
I do it all the time.
You too.
She said normal, Deb. Not that I am
come
either,
on. Come on, I'm not claiming to be normal. I wrangle this circus every night. That's not normal. Does anyone else have anything to add before we sign off for the night? Anybody else? Andrew, you were, I know, visiting other realms today. Do you have anything else to add tonight before we go?
I was late. I had other things that interfered. Actually, I was supposed to play trivia.
He's dead. He's dead.
He's dead.
He's dead.
It's one of those things.
It's a lie.
I ended up having to work.
So, Andrew, before we go, would you please remind everybody about Michigan Reads, what you're doing, what that is, and how our author friends can become involved?
Well, it's actually, I'm setting time this weekend to fire everything up. The developer is not going as fast as I can, but Michigan Reads is a concept where there is a central location for any author to be able to sell their book or advertise their book. But not just that. Previously, it has just been my money, but it will be whatever is either donated or put in will be used to advertise via multiple mediums to get people to Michigan Reads and potentially allow our books to see the entire state more easily. I have verified that we've been on a number of billboards, and a lot of people have seen them, and hundreds of thousands, in fact. We're not getting hundreds of thousands of hits yet, but as it grows, I hope to make Michigan authors, give them a little bit easier place where they get some notoriety, and then move this concept into a little bit larger area without breaking people's back or their bank. Those are two good words, but it should be fun. Look for more. If you're interested, go to michiganreads.com, look at the about, and there is also a cute little form that you can fill out that'll get you on the list right away. There are several people that have written. I know Mark has, I know several other people here have, and those people will be indoctrinated first, and not necessarily indoctrinated, but given the opportunity to put their stuff out and see if it makes a difference for them. And if it does, great. And I want to make a difference so that everybody can move forward together.
Absolutely.
Who's gonna manage the site now that you're dead?
That's a good question.
It's amazing the things that Andrew has energy for.
So it's a real good question. I will have to eventually get other people involved because it has already gotten very complicated. And the bigger part is if I launch it nationally, and I have another site that I have already created and a domain that is ready for that. But if I write it or put it together nationally, there are already a significant number of national authors that have shown interest. So you've got a website, but it's easy for customers to remember. Michigan Reads. What was her name? It was Mandy Joe. I can't spell her last name to go to her site, but if I go to Michigan Reads, I can find her.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Kelso?
What was that author with no vowels in her last name? I don't remember. Yeah.
It's one of them things.
Is it any relation to Deborah Reed?
Well, I am tremendously grateful for all you do for the indie author community, Andrew. You are constantly out there pulling for us and helping us, and I am tremendously grateful. Thank you so much for all you do for all of us.
Yay.
Thank you everybody for showing up tonight. We had a lot of fun. If you missed part or all of our little program tonight, go watch the replay. It'll be up tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.